Welcome back to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome back to our watch club for HBO's The Last of Us. I'll follow you anywhere you go. But there's no halfway with this. We finish what we started. Welcome back to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our Watch Club for HBO's The Last of Us, Episode 9, the finale, titled Look for the Light, directed by Ali Abbasi. Special thanks, as always, to our partners at Crave and HBO for letting us watch this series in advance. If you're joining us for the first time, well, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this episode, this season, but not necessarily for The Last of Us Part 2. So don't worry about that. But listen, if you haven't watched this finale yet, make sure you go and do that, and then come right back faster than a fresh, hungry runner. Now, before we all drop the ladder and become good friends with a giraffe, let me introduce you to my friendly giraffe of a man and fellow survivor. He's taller than a bloater, and he's certainly an Ellie toter. He's Justin the Joel lovin' Lawrence.
Nate, this is the last of this.
Jesus.
This season. That's my pun for you.
I didn't think you were going to do it.
That was my pun for you.
The Last of Us. Yeah.
the last of this Watch Club episode,
For now.
let me tell you.
For now. We know we got another season.
We know we got another season, and we will definitely be covering it again.
But we did it, man. 9 weeks of excellent appointment television. Are you going to miss it? You think you're going to miss it?
No, because I think that, again, it's 2023, man. There's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
that's
we'll have a
coming
lot
out
to keep me distracted.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a matter of how much of it is going to stick with me as we go through the rest of 2023.
Interesting. There's a lot of moments that I think will stick with me for sure. I think it's the ways that they change things. I think episode 3 is very much going to stick with me and a lot of people, I think, this year as being one of the best episodes of television. For sure.
I think there's standout episodes and there's standout performances, without a doubt.
Yes.
But as a series as a whole, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll discuss.
We'll talk about it. But Justin, before we get into this week's episode and sort of break it down here, as we like to do, this week, this is the final episode. We get a lovely moment between Joel, Ellie, and, as I mentioned earlier, a giraffe. Before we get to this episode, I want to know, in your life, what has been your favorite interaction with a wild animal?
Other than you, I would have to say...
You've had a lot of them.
Yeah. I would have to say, there was this trip that my wife and I took in, I believe it was 2014. We went to Chicago, and we went to the aquarium there. Oh, and my wife loves penguins, and they had a meet and greet with penguins.
There you go.
So what they do is they have you sit in this room, and they bring in a penguin, and his name was 808, but we called him Bob because 808 looked like Bob.
Oh, there you go.
So they put him down, and we're sitting at the very back of this room, and it's just like a hallway almost, and it's just a very controlled space. And I kid you not, man, this penguin lands its feet on the ground and just walks right to the back of this hallway and stands in front of me and Angie and is just like looking up at us and like kind of has his head tilted. I've always said, my wife is sort of spiritually connected with penguins. She loves them so much. And in that moment, I was like, good Lord.
It's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool experience to see. We got to feed him and take some pictures with him. So it was super cool. That was the closest I've ever been to a quote unquote wild animal. I know they do like those things at the San Diego Zoo, where you can like do meet and greets with like all sorts of different animals. But that penguin would probably be the most fitting. It's a super chill animal. I'm down with a penguin.
There you go. Just hanging out, chilling.
I don't know if I want to meet and greet a lion or
No.
Maybe a giraffe. Sure, a giraffe would be dope, but
Honestly, in the right context, I'd probably meet and greet a lion. I don't know. But, I mean, not necessarily a lion, but definitely a wild cat. For me, I actually had the opportunity. I can't remember which trip it was. It was one of the various trips that I've gone on in my life. And we were flying, and in the airport, there was just a cat. There was just a cat in the airport. I think this was in like Mexico, or, it could have been in a couple different places, but just this cat that like came right up to me, just started chilling with me. And I don't know if it was okay to pet it or for what we were doing. But yeah, airport cats. I don't know. Have you ever run into an airport cat before?
No, I've run into airport dogs.
Okay.
And it's like in Greece. I guess that's a wild animal because they're just roaming free. But
more wild than yours.
I guess because a zoo is maintaining it, or an aquarium is maintaining it. But I guess that counts.
It's the only thing I can think of. Animals are a gift, and I think honestly, out of all the creatures in this universe of The Last of Us, I think they are probably they're loving it. They're very happy that humans
nature
are all
in
gone.
Itself, nature is flourishing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the subtext to this whole series is, what happens when you remove humans from the planet?
Yeah.
Well, it actually gets better, and we even saw that with the pandemic.
I know.
We saw
the dolphins
waters clearing
in Italy
and dolphins in Italy getting closer to the pier and stuff like that. So it's really crazy to think how again, just as a juxtaposition, we as humans are sort of the infection to the earth that kind of are, creating some of these, I guess, planetary issues.
Yeah, we're the worst. So let's get into it here. Before we go in for surgery, let's get into this week's episode for the final time this season. All right, let's get to it here. Our finale hits the ground running as we start with a cold open and see an extremely... I know, you love the cold opens, Justin. They're fantastic.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. And we see an extremely pregnant Anna Williams running through the forest about to give birth. In the distance, we hear an infected runner screaming, chasing after her. Anna manages to make it back to the farmhouse where she discovers no one's home. She runs up the stairs, bars the door shut with a chair, and flips out her knife and continues to grasp at her stomach in pain. She drops the knife, and as she does, the infected runner busts through the door, clambering towards her on all fours. It thrusts itself... it was awful. It thrusts itself on top of her and struggles to fend it off. Anna manages to reach her knife and stabs it 3 times in the side and once in the neck. The infected falls on the ground, and then we hear it. We hear a baby crying. She looks down, and she notices she's been bit on the leg, but then immediately... her gaze is brought to her newborn baby, Ellie. She uses the knife to cut the cord and then kisses, Ellie's little hands. She's got 10 fingers, 10 toes. And as Ellie cries, she says, "You fucking tell them, Ellie." She holds her close to her chest and tells her, "It's okay." And then we cut to the intro. So this is our first time getting to see a fully realized Ellie's mom, Anna Williams. What did you think of this cold open, and what did you think of Ashley Johnson as Anna?
Oh my God, dude, perfect casting.
So good.
She sounded like Ellie. Well, she
of course,
is Ellie.
Because she is Ellie.
But like the fact, like just the, I guess the meta nature.
Yes.
Her character is birthing Ellie, and she is the original Ellie. Like it's and the way she was talking and like how she said, "You tell them, Ellie, you fucking tell them," right? Like it was just all really, really great. So I'm glad that they used Ashley Johnson to help tell a new part of Ellie's story that obviously will have an impact as we get towards the end of the episode and matter more. But I really did like how this episode kicked off with a cold open and more importantly, a flashback showing us a point in time where, the virus is the threat and people are still surviving, and specifically focusing on Ellie's mom, Anna. We got some great cold opens in the first episode and in the second episode, but after that it was done. And I was really hoping that throughout the season we would have understood a little bit more about the virus and its evolution, and that period of time from when it initially dropped 20 years in the past to now, And I get why we're seeing this moment. It's very monumentous. It's very important. And I don't know, that now that I have a baby who's also named Ellie, I can't help but like I got teary, sitting there, watching her kissing the hands. It's just I paused, I went upstairs and saw my baby and gave her a little kiss, and I was just like, it's one of those things, especially in that moment when you have a sense of appreciation of things, but also Anna obviously looks and she sees that she's bitten. She knows the outcome's not going to be good for her.
Right. Absolutely. I think it was very similar to last week with Troy Baker as James, right? Like even hearing the noises that she's making struggling through the forest, I'm just like, that's Ellie.
Like walking through. Yeah.
That's Ellie. That's because I think her voice is even more similar to Ellie's voice than Troy Baker's is to Joel.
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't think Ashley Johnson's really putting on too much of a character voice when she does the voice of Ellie in the video games. They might adjust it and maybe pitch it up higher.
Yeah.
But, unlike Troy Baker playing Joel, he's becoming a character, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I as you said, the meta aspect of her being Ella's mom, the woman responsible for helping to bring Ellie into our world is the one who births Ellie into this
births
one.
Ellie. Yeah, it's perfect. It's so
perfect.
Good. I love it.
And I will say, we had a few moments with the infected this season, but I think this might be the scariest one. Like this runner clambering on all fours is just terrifying. And the noises it's making, like the way a runner can sound a little more human when it screams is awful. Like it's an audible reminder that this was a living, breathing person at one point. Whereas with something like a clicker or a bloater, they're so far gone physically that to me it's not as upsetting to see. Don't get me wrong, they're gross looking, but sure. it's that sort of psychological, scariness as well of just the runner, of just the first stage of infection.
Well, Nana Adler in the first episode, man. Like, I think that's still one of the most haunting things is to Sarah's just standing there and she's just slowly perching herself up.
Yeah.
Like, that is also terrifying as well. So,
and it shows that they can kind of, you can get that same sense of fear or that same level of fear. I think a lot of people when they watch a lot of, a lot of these shows and a lot of these movies, it's like, when's the action going to happen? I need the action moment. Give me the action moment. And in this case, this was an action moment, but you're right. Even just Nana Adler slowly, kind of in the background, all blurry, was kind of on the same level of horror.
Yes.
But I love the fact that Ellie's innate use of swear words comes from her mom. Like hearing Anna say, like, you fucking tell them, Ellie. I'm just like, yes. Like that was so perfect. The way like Ashley Johnson was phenomenal in this. The way she looks down in fear and then she's immediately brought back to Ellie, and her smile, her sense of joy, but then how in her face, we talk about this a lot on this show, of like these actors not
conveying emotion. She switches into the reality, right? Like she realizes like in that moment, right? Like this is going to be a very short-lived experience with her daughter.
That's it.
And that's where it gets emotional, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why, when she kisses the hands and stuff like that, you can't help but get a little emotional because you realize what this means for her.
And again, it sort of continues the theme here to what Ellie will actually experience later on in her life that we saw a couple weeks ago of her and Riley, and this idea of, a brand new opportunity to truly love and take care of someone ripped away from you in the same moment that you're sort of discovering it or sort of making it a reality. And it's heartbreaking. And she nailed it. Ashley Johnson nailed it. And I was so happy that they made that decision.
Small role, but huge impact.
Huge impact. And I think also just one more thing here, Ellie born in violence is really captivating. And I think it's another great way that they've added depth to this character that has already been explored so deeply in the source material. But they've just sort of said, not
She's
only
tragic from the get-go.
From the get, like right from birth. And it immediately reminded me of Dexter. I don't know if you've watched Dexter before, but the idea of like born in blood, born in violence, and just born into this world. And kind of the idea too that like it just happened. Like that was like, Anna just didn't even realize that she had just given birth. Was crazy. She was so caught up in that moment in trying to protect herself, that she didn't even see that was happening. The way it was shot was just really, really good. But let's keep going here. In the distant darkness, we see three fireflies, approaching the farmhouse, and one of them is Marlene. They try the front door, but it's locked. So they enter through the back, where they see a window has been smashed through. They slowly walk up the stairs. They hear Anna singing softly to her baby, and Marlene walks through the open door to see Anna holding her baby, while also holding her knife against her own neck. Marlene instantly notices the bite mark on Anna's leg, and Anna says it's not your fault, and that she cut the cord before she was bitten. She emphasizes before. She asks Marlene to take Ellie with her to Boston to find someone to bring her up and make sure she's safe, and to give her the knife. We learn that Marlene and Ellie have known each other their entire lives. Ellie asks Marlene to kill her, and Marlene picks up Ellie and takes her back to one of the fireflies in the hallway. She says she can't kill her, but as she walks away, Ellie begs her, saying please, as she writhes in pain. Marlene hands baby Ellie over to the soldier, walks in front of the door, looks down, breathes heavy, walks in, and fires a single shot, killing Anna. And the noise from the gunshot causes Ellie to cry. So we get even more backstory here with the fact that Marlene and Ellie have known each other their entire lives. What did you think of this moment of again, sort of new life and tragic death?
Well, it's interesting to see how Marlene and Ellie's stories somewhat are parallel, right? Like in terms of having to kill someone that you care about, whether it be romantically or as a best friend or as a sister or whomever. But, the fact that they invested the time to write this scene and put it at the beginning to help add more emotional depth to the overall story. And it just gives more validity to the moments that we see towards the end to have that. And this is what I was really hoping that we would get more of throughout the rest of this series. In earlier episodes, as I was mentioning with the stories with Henry and Kathleen, is just these moments of flashbacks that give a little bit more context, that allow us to experience these moments and understand the relationships between these characters beyond just expository. I've known Ellie all her life. I knew her mom beforehand, I think is how it's addressed in the game. We don't see this moment. This isn't something that we were gifted in the game. Here we are. You've expanded, you've added a new element to the story that the audience will appreciate. But for those who have enjoyed the game, it elevates the story that much more. And it adds a whole new layer to the narrative that allows us to experience some of the emotional connections that these characters have and the stakes that are kind of at hand as we get towards the end of the episode.
It's also interesting to note, and I you're talking about the way that it's poetic and the way that sort of mirrors the other stories. And I mean, we're going to talk about the ending when we get to it, but I think it's interesting that the two most crucial moments for Ellie and why she's still alive, both here and at the end of the episode, is because a parent lied, right? Anna tells Marlene she cut the cord before she was bit, and that's not true.
She didn't, though.
Right?
Yeah,
and so with, Joel, again, we're going to get into the ending when we get to it, but I just love the way that this is sort of, it adds that structure of okay, the beginning of Ellie's life and the ending of this chapter of this story. The writing is just so good, and it's just one of those things that I'm like, cool, that elevates a story that I didn't think could be better, which is really, really awesome. And I think that's part of the idea of adapting. We talk about it literally every week. We're freaking broken records, but it's the idea of adapting.
But that's what we're talking about,
we're
right?
celebrating.
We're not just coming at this We're not just coming at this as we're just talking about a show. We're coming at it as fans of the game that are looking at it through this lens, right? And if you've been with us week to week, hopefully you've enjoyed that part of the conversation, right? But if you've also someone who's new, maybe it doesn't matter to you, and it shouldn't. Do you know what I mean? Because I think at the end of the day, the game experience and the series experience are meant to be two separate experiences. When we get to the end, we'll talk about it and how it all worked out.
Sure. I did think that the hardest part in this scene was hearing Anna begging Marlene to kill her as she's walking away. She, you get the idea that she didn't want to go through the pain and suffering of turning. And I think she just didn't want to become the very thing that took her daughter away from her, essentially. right? She literally just lived through the experience of not just having an infected, but in particular, an infected woman attacking her. And in her, I could see how in her mind, she's like immediately making that comparison of, I don't want to become that. Do anything you have to make sure I don't become that. And I just thought there was, again,
I think that's why she's asking for
absolutely.
it. Right?
And then I did want to just shout out the song she's singing, "The Sun Always Shines on TV" by Aha, which is one of Ellie's favorite artists according to her tape collection. So I thought that was kind of just a nice little detail in line with Anna's, potty mouth essentially, that carried over to Ellie. I thought was really, really, really nice. And you would imagine too, if Aha was one of Anna's favorite songs and she sang it to Ellie at birth, you'd have to imagine too that maybe Marlene was a fan. And maybe that's where those tapes came from. And, your mom really enjoyed this, when she, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But let's keep going here. We cut from baby Ellie crying to Ellie, present day, sitting on the back of a broken down truck. She's lost in her thoughts. And at first, she doesn't hear Joel calling out for her. Joel shows her the beefaroni and boggle, which just sounds like a great Tuesday night. Beefaroni and boggle, like, let's go. And he, while walking down the byway, Joel asks Ellie if she'd like him to teach her guitar, to which she agrees. While traversing a nearby building, Joel asks Ellie if she could help drop a ladder down, and after he gives her a boost. She doesn't quite hear him again, so he asks her if she's okay. And he says, "You've been extra quiet today." And she apologizes, but he's like, "No, it's okay." And then after boosting her up, she starts to move the ladder, but hears a noise and gets distracted, dropping the ladder. She yells to Joel, telling him, "You got to see this." He follows her, confused as to why she's running, until he sees it. Ellie standing next to a giraffe, feeding on some nearby branches. He grabs some leaves and hands them to Ellie, and she giggles and smiles huge as she feeds the long-necked creature. The giraffe walks away, and she runs to follow her. While staring at the herd, Joel asks her if it's everything she hoped for. And she tells him, "It's got its ups and downs, but you can't deny that view." Joel tells her she doesn't have to go through with it getting to the hospital. He says they can just go back to Tommy's and forget the whole damn thing. Ellie tells him after all they've been through and everything she's done, it can't be for nothing. She tells him she'll follow him anywhere he wants to go, but that there's no halfway with this, and they need to finish what they started. So what do you think about this moment with the giraffes that caused Joel to, offer, to back out? Why do you think, he was making that choice in that moment?
I think it has a lot to do with just even the lead up. He's Chatty McGee. Do you know what I mean? Boggle and
he's making jokes. Yeah.
You wanna play some guitar? Yeah. Like I'd love to teach you.
You want to blow up that thing? Oh, I don't have a grenade.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like he's striking up conversation. He's keeping the dialogue going. He's opening up to Ellie, and I think part of that extends from him being grateful that she kept him alive, but also understanding what happened in last week's episode and that effect that it has.
Yeah.
So I think he sees himself in this moment in Ellie. And he also understands that Ellie's just a kid.
Yeah.
She's not given this choice. And she sees how happy she is interacting with giraffes. And, beyond the fact that she is the cure, and I use that in air quotes, but she is the future. She is a kid that can build a prosperous future and find a way for society to be better in some ways, right? Like how people look at kids as the future, right? Mm-hmm. He's extending an olive branch in a lot of ways, just so that allows him to tell her that you have a choice, right?
Yeah.
You have proven through and through that you're a kid, but you're also an adult, and you shouldn't have to make this decision because someone's telling you that you are the cure. Like you can decide. But this moment is surrounded by a sense of serenity and sereneness, and I think that just goes to kind of connect as a closure to this journey, to see how much they've bonded and how much they've connected.
Well, and I think he was, to your point, he was worried that Ellie would feel like she feels forced to be doing this. And this is the moment that he realized that she was more important to him than his promise to Tess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Seeing her big smile, seeing her just living life in that moment. Like that's a literally like that's the moment of freedom of her, of just her giggling and smiling and being so curious and exploring the world
excited.
in that excited
and like it's like discovering like she hasn't seen things. Like it's such a vulnerable moment for Ellie, where again he's thinking and processing what she's gone through, and yet here she is at her happiest.
Yeah, and he wasn't sure what would happen at the hospital, but this is where he wants to offer a way out if she wanted it. And then her declining it, I think, to me, I think that's the side of Tess that really stuck with Ellie along the way. I think, her thinking about Sam in this moment, right? She's thinking about how she tried to use her blood to heal him, thinking that if that only had happened after they had gotten the cure. And I think she's thinking more than just herself in this moment. And I think it's a level of maturity that Joel wasn't necessarily expecting to see from her in this moment, because again, you sort of have that juxtaposition of her. She's a kid. She's running. She's like, oh, giraffes.
Oh my gosh,
right?
She's happy.
It's a whole thing.
Life.
And then instantly, no, we have to finish this, Joel. Like this is more important than you and me.
Again, when we get to the end, we'll get to the end. But that is why she says those names. Right.
Yes.
At the end,
yep. It's on her mind.
It is for her to say exactly.
Yeah.
That's why she's doing it.
Yeah.
Like that is why she was doing it. Right. So to hear that at the end and to think back at this moment, I totally agree with you. I think those people are in her mind, and Riley is also at top of her mind.
Absolutely. And I think this is a really, for a lot of the people that played the game, like this is a really important moment from the game. And I do think they really pulled it off here. I think they absolutely nailed it. I love how, though, I don't know if this is in the game, because I haven't gotten to that part in my replay yet, but Joel has a freaking giraffe in front of him. That's not a thing that you see. I don't care if you've traveled the world front and back and maybe went through a zoo or whatever. It's not a thing you see every day, let alone one that close to you. But all he can do is look at Ellie in that moment and how much she's enjoying it. And I'm sure as a dad, you're going to have very similar moments with your Ellie one day.
For sure. But also, again, the lead up too, right? He can sense that something's wrong, which is why he's filling the open, quiet air. Because usually she is pretty chatty. Usually she's the one talking. So it's very apparent in the early part of this scene that she's clearly carrying that trauma from the moments with David. She's trying, I think, to reconcile that. She's trying to process that. And Joel's trying to fill that air. He's trying to open her up and try to get her talking. And I think in that moment he sees she's just so vulnerable. She's just, like you said, there's a sense of wonderment to her in that moment. So
it's like when you see a newborn, like a dad holding a newborn for the first time, right? Or even Anna holding Ellie for the first time, like that look on their face was very similar to what I think Pedro was emoting through Joel here, of happy. Just that sort of like, oh, she's so happy, and I want the world for her. So let's keep going here. Once they arrive at the hospital, they see a military emergency medical camp, and Joel tells Ellie that he spent some time in a camp similar to this for the scar on the side of his head. He admits that the guy who shot and missed was him. He sits down, and Ellie sits next to him, and he says, when Sarah died, he couldn't see the point anymore. He wasn't scared. He was ready, but when he went to pull the trigger, he flinched. Ellie says she knows why he's telling her this, and she says, time heals all wounds, I guess. To which Joel replies, it wasn't time that did it. Ellie tells him that she's glad that didn't work out. And Joel asks for a few more shitty puns. But as Ellie reads her third pun, they see a smoke grenade land at their feet. Joel grabs Ellie as they jump away from it. And as they choke on the gas, Ellie gets taken away, and Joel gets the butt of a rifle smashed into the back of his head, causing him to white out. So this is something new for the show that I don't think was ever brought up in the game. What did you think of the reveal that Joel tried to kill himself?
Again, I like this. This is a welcome addition that spices things up from the game, and it's another example of Joel opening up to Ellie. Yeah. He's very much, he can see and understand that she's gone through a lot. He doesn't want to see her go down a similar route where she's consumed by it and it becomes something that overtakes itself. So I think in this moment, like, you know, he's sharing more about himself. He's opening up to Ellie in hopes that she can also open up to him and also just build that relationship. It's a great payoff for him to share this with her, right? Because it feels earned.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't have told her that before. No. In this moment, it is 100% an earned moment where you see Joel accepting who Ellie is and understanding who she means to him. You know, you mentioned it last, like, you know, someone that he thinks is more important to fight for other than Tess is Ellie. I think this is the real testament to that moment, because it's him saying, you know, I was in my lowest and I tried to kill myself, right? Like it's grounded.
You know, literally pretty much every moment up until Jackson. Like him telling her at Bill and Frank's, like, we do not discuss the past. That is not to be brought up.
Yeah, exactly.
He's such a closed book. So to hear him open up in this moment, yeah, it's just it's a phenomenal moment of growth, and he trusts her wholeheartedly. And oh, dude, when he says it wasn't time that did it, like tears. Like I was welling up. I'm like, that moment got me so much. His performance when he's trying to explain to her, just the way he sort of pauses at times and is really struggling and even just bringing it up.
Yeah.
It's just extraordinary. And I think it's just it's another really great, you know, sort of smaller moment from a performative standpoint for Pedro Pascal.
Dude, the acting has been top tier. It's for consistent.
It's like, what do we even say it anymore? but it has, and I think it's good to recognize those moments. And I think this was a great opportunity to show that Tommy is no longer the only person he can be fully honest with anymore. You know, remember the last time he broke down like this? You know, I think much harsher, right? But he was with Tommy, and I made the comment that you know, Tommy's the only one in the world that he can say this stuff in front of, because he feels as though he can't say it in front of Ellie, and here he is, and I love it. I love that they managed to get him there.
I think the soft sentiments of Pedro Pascal in this moment, where he's kind of saying, like, you're worth fighting for, like, you're worth staying alive for, was so sincere, and it's his softer way of saying those words,
sure, rather
than just simply outright saying, you know, you're worth fighting for, like, you're worth me staying alive, right? You know, so yeah, it was a touching moment,
really good, and again, so an added moment, right? And
an added moment, absolutely. That was done well, and that was a nice surprise, and it allowed for really great character development, so right? Good. So it was like, it's good, man.
Joel wakes up in a hospital bed and he sees a Firefly logo. I think it's like on a barrel or something across. I don't know what the thing he saw.
Yes, it is.
Marlene tells him to take it easy and that her soldiers didn't know who he was, and that's why they hit him on the head. She says Ellie wasn't hurt, just mostly worried about him. Marlene asks how he managed to get her there, and he says it was all her. She fought like hell to get there. And when he asks to see Ellie, Marlene says she can't because she's being prepped for surgery. Marlene explains to Joel that the doctor believes that the cordyceps in Ellie have been growing with her since birth. It creates a kind of chemical messenger. It makes normal cordyceps think that she's cordyceps. It's why she's immune. He's going to remove it from her, multiply the cells in a lab, produce those chemical messengers, and then they can give it to everyone. He thinks it can be a cure. Joel realizes that cordyceps grow inside the brain. He tells Marlene to find someone else. Marlene tells him there is no one else. He demands to be taken to her, and he tells Marlene she doesn't understand, but she lets him know she was there when Ellie was born and that she promised Ellie's mother that she'd save her child. So she does understand, and she's the only one who understands. Marlene apologizes, saying she has no other choice, and Joel responds with, I do. Marlene tells her men to walk him out to the highway, and if he tries anything, shoot him. So, what did you think of this sort of slightly better explanation of how Ellie's immunity works here, and sort of the explanation of why they think they have a cure?
I think that this is a perfect justification for why she would have the immunity. And again, with a TV series, it's better to have things tightened up that feel more grounded in some sort of understanding of science versus the video game that can just be as it is with very little explanation, because the gameplay is obviously the importance here, right? So I think it all makes sense, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that they went that distance to actually kind of give it a sense of justification. It's a welcomed addition again.
Yeah, I think it's, in the game, Marlene just says it was a mutation, right? And that's as cut and dry as it is. And I think this is another example of, like, they're not taking away from what happened to the game, but it just, it makes it clear she can't die from just getting bit. And for those who need that rationale, right? Because I think you're right, Justin. I think we're looking at a different audience now of there's going to be those people that, like, well, I need to know how it works. And, I think
exactly.
back to, like, Lost
or just,
and all the people that are upset with how the things were not explained. And this is that for them, I guess.
Well, it's just, they did a lot of... Listen, we're not here to talk about Lost.
Do you want to talk about Lost?
Forever.
Welcome to the Lost of Us podcast.
Not the Lost of Us. Okay, anyways.
All right.
I think the idea, though, behind at least what they're, with what they're doing here is exactly that. It is to ground it so that the audience can understand it. Because, again, you can just say it's a mutation in a video game because it's not necessarily, like, the point of the video game.
Right.
But here it has to make sense as a TV series. It is a fiction story that we're watching, and there would be some level of explanation, right? And it would be pretty easy for them to get called out for lack thereof if they did go down a mutation route.
Yeah.
Right?
I was hoping when she said mutation, it would just go da-da-da-da-da-da in the background and be like, what? Just
universes are colliding.
Oh, my
God.
Let's go. All right.
Last of Us MCU
Dude,
edition.
I'm telling you. Oh my gosh. All right, let's keep going here. While walking through the hospital, Joel keeps stopping until they get to a small enough space where he can take out both of the soldiers that are sort of guiding him through the hallways. He breaks one of the soldiers' noses and uses his rifle to shoot the other one. He asks the remaining one where Ellie is, and when the soldier responds with a "fuck you," Joel says, "I don't have time for this," and executes him right there. Joel continues on his rampage through the hospital, taking out every Firefly in sight. As he runs out of ammo, he picks up a new gun off a fresh kill. One even surrenders in front of him, lays down his gun, but Joel still shoots him dead. He walks through the pediatric wing, passing by murals of zoo animals on the walls, and he eventually makes it to the operating room. He sees Ellie on the table, hooked up, and he demands they unhook her. And when the doctor says he won't let him take her, he shoots him in the head without a second thought. The two other doctors begin to unhook her, and he picks her up and they make their way to the elevator. Once inside the parking garage, he's confronted once more by Marlene. He tells her Ellie's fate isn't for Marlene to decide, and she says it's not his decision either, it's Ellie's. And he knows it. Marlene says it's not too late. They can still find a way. He looks up at her, and we cut to the interior of the car. He's driving away. Ellie wakes up woozy from the drugs, and Joel lies to her, telling her they were running tests on her and the others. And others just like her who are also immune. But the doctors, they couldn't make it work. They've actually stopped looking for a cure. Ellie asks where her clothes are, and Joel quickly responds by saying, well, the raiders that attacked the hospital, and he barely got her out of there. She asks him if people were hurt, and he says yes. And she asks if Marlene is okay, and he doesn't answer the question, instead telling her he's taking them home. Ellie turns around, and Joel just says quietly, I'm sorry, as we see him killing Marlene, saying, you just come after her. So, quite a moment. Let's talk about Joel's decision to go to war here. What did you think of this hyper-violent moment of desperation and Joel's choice to kill Marlene?
Oh, it was a snap-to judgment. As soon as he knew that she was going to probably die, he knew that everyone was going to have to die in that building, right? Like, I think he made that decision early on. I don't know about those nurses, right? I don't know if if they cut away and...
You think he shot them as well? Well, because in the game, you can choose... can choose to. You can't choose to kill the doctor. You have to kill the doctor in the game. But in the game, you can choose to not kill the other doctors or the nurses. Like, I didn't
you know
kill
what?
them. Just for the record.
No, for sure. But like I'm just saying, like, yeah, for sure, you're not murderous. But I think at the end of the day, I think what we're witnessing here through the medium of the story is Joel just making that snap decision. Like you said, he's going on a rampage. He's calmly, confidently walking through this hospital, picking off these fireflies, and it exudes confidence versus, obviously in the gameplay it's like stealth mode. You got to go around and take everyone out and
for
so
sure
on and so forth, and it's just a different experience. So here it's more telling to his character and his story of who Joel is in this moment. Right? Like in this moment, he is confidently fighting for Ellie and like flawlessly just walking through. And the decision to kill Marlene is obvious. Like, it wasn't a surprise, right? Given what happens. But I think the context of their conversation just adds more depth given what we saw over this episode. He knows that she's the one that has to make this decision. And he knows in that moment that if it was up to her, she's going to choose to die. If it means that they could find a cure. He knows that. Which is why he's like,
okay.
I honestly think that he knows that she would do it, but he's still going to lie to protect her.
Interesting. I have a different thought on that. I'll get to that in a second. But dude, I will say, again, we talk about the idea of adapting from a video game. We've seen so many terrible examples. I think back to Doom, right, where you get the first person view of the gun, right, and awful. And then I think back to even just more recently the Paramount Plus Halo series, where you're inside the helmet and you see the. No, don't give me any of that shit. This is how, like, this is gameplay. Like, this moment is gameplay, and as dark as that is, this, anyone who had to go through that section picking up new guns over and over and over again because you'd constantly run out of ammo with these guns, it highlights that perfectly. The music here with the heavy bass strings and then the theme song in the background almost sounding at times militaristic, and it actually reminded me a lot of compositions by Nicholas Britell for Andor. Like, if you listen back to it, I'm like, it's very Andor sounding. It's great.
Well, I think it's highlighting the darkness that's kind of coming out of Joel, like that bass mixed with that theme song, like such an audible difference to the music that just feels more rooted into like this sort of the rampage and the very calm rage.
He goes blank faced. We talked about this last week where he goes blank faced. I thought he was very much that up until when he goes to shoot Marlene. But it's interesting here because I don't know how to feel about this iteration of Marlene, because in the game, prior to them getting abducted by the Fireflies, Ellie nearly drowns, and Joel is trying to revive her because she stops breathing, and then he's knocked out by the Fireflies. So you'd have to imagine that in the game, Ellie never woke up, or I guess never came through to have a conversation with Marlene to discuss what was about to happen to her. But here, like, she says, unless she's lying to Joel in that moment, but she says, there's not a scratch on her. She was just mostly worried about you. That means that she did come through. She
did.
But then, this is what I'm saying. If Ellie had if they had that conversation and Ellie, did choose to go through with it, okay, I that's fair. But I also get the idea that Marlene wouldn't have given her the choice.
No, she didn't. I don't think Marlene told her, but I think that at the end of the day, if she has to go through Joel, it needs to be a decision that she has to make. Do you know what I mean?
But I think, why couldn't you just wake them both up in the same room and just have them talk? Like,
I guess, but again, Marlene is clearly trying to get this going, and I think what she was doing was soft prepping Joel for Ellie's death, right? But that obviously didn't work.
The only reason I can think that would be because when the last time she left Joel, like Marlene, she's not watching The Last of Us with us every week. She's not seeing the character growth. She's not seeing him become a dad. But she knows what he's capable of. Right, but what I'm saying is
she made that clear in the first episode.
I understand, but she's not. She's not going into this room, like her going into this room to tell her what they're about to do to Ellie.
You think she thought he didn't care
Correct.
for her anyways.
Correct. And that's why she would go in to talk to him. And I guess that's where she sort of made that mistake.
Misread the situation.
She misread the situation. But like at the same time, like, I don't know, man. I get the feeling that like, even if Ellie at the very tail end of it was like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. She passes by the mural in the hallway. She sees the monkey and she thinks back to being with Joel. First time seeing a monkey. And she just gets this like, sort of fear flight like sort of thing going on with her. I don't know, man. I think Marlene would have been like, well, too bad. Inject, and you're, I don't know if she would have chosen. Obviously, we'll never know.
We'll never know. But also the other option too is that there was no conversation had.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And there was just like her probably by saying like she was concerned about Joel. Maybe she was, still kind of woozy and she was asking for Joel and stuff like that, and they're already prepping her and moving her in. Like, again, it's all circumstantial. It's subtext, right? But I think the most telling thing is the fact that she's calling Joel out on his bullshit. Of if you're making this decision for her,
right?
She's not making this decision. She's not deciding whether it is. And I think it's been pretty clear that Ellie, I think she kind of already might have known she might die here. Right? It might be a part of the process in which they're trying to extract the cure, and she might not make it out alive, right? And that's what I was saying before about the conversation with the giraffes and how she's like, we have to go all the way. And you were right. I think she is thinking about Tess. She's thinking about Sam. She's thinking about Riley. She's thinking about all the people that potentially she could save. And I think she's ready to potentially die. She knows that that's a possibility, that she might not end up out of this alive.
I don't know. We could debate this into the ground.
We'll never know.
I know.
But I think it's all tonality throughout the acting, right? Throughout these performances, and they're obviously acting the words on the page, but you have to read through their body language and the way they look. When Bella acts that scene and she's like thinking, we got to go all the way to do this. I think she knows instinctually that is a potential possibility that she might die.
Okay. Well, listen, we got one more section to go through here. After a brief driving montage, they make it about roughly a 5-hour hike away from Jackson. That's as far as the car will take them. And while walking, Joel tells Ellie that he thinks she likes Sarah and that Sarah'd like her too, because Ellie's funny. He thinks that she would have made her laugh. They finally reach the Jackson settlement, and Ellie stops Joel to tell him about the first time she killed someone. She tells him that when she got bit in the mall, she wasn't on her own. Her best friend was there, and she got bit too. They didn't know what to do, and that her friend told her they could just wait it out and be all poetic and lose their minds together. She says, "Then she did, and I had to." She pauses and tells him her name was Riley, and she was the first to die, and then it was Tess, and then Sam. Joel tells her that sometimes things don't work out the way they hope. You'll feel like you've come to an end and you don't know what to do next, but if you just keep going, you find something new to fight for. She tells him to swear to her that everything he said about the Fireflies is true. And he says, "I swear." And she says, "Okay." And that's the end of season 1 of The Last of Us from HBO. What did you think of Joel's response to Ellie? Her promise. And now that we're at the end of at least this chapter of the story, and this might open up a whole new can of worms here, but is Joel a good guy?
Look, Joel is a good guy who's making a bad decision. That is entirely true. He wants to protect Ellie at all costs, but she should choose her own future. She shouldn't have that future decided for her based on the fact that she has the potential of that cure. He's not letting her decide, though. He is actually making the decision for her because she deserves life, right? She deserves to live and have more moments like the one that they shared with the giraffes earlier in this episode.
He sees that it's not fair that, like, why is it fair that she's the cure? You know what I mean?
But also, I think he has doubt.
Yeah.
I don't think he's confirmed. Oh, they said this. Psh, they know. It's a gamble. What if they kill her and it doesn't work?
Well, dude,
That's what's
How
running
would
through
they
his
have
mind,
even
man.
distributed it, right? Like, think about it this way, right? And this is in a really very sort of close to home reality, unfortunately. But how do we even know the people of this world would even want a cure, right? We've seen 3 major examples of how terrible people have come to power, right? During this outbreak, we've got, the corrupt Kansas City Fedra soldiers, like all those awful people for 20 years, dude. 20 years. Kathleen, the outcome of that situation. And then David. And I don't really think that anyone in their position, and there's more examples in this world, I'm sure, than just them. I don't think anyone in this situation would want the world to go back to normal. And so I think the Fireflies, I think the Fireflies, absolutely, are they well-intentioned? Sure, absolutely, 100%. They want to save the world, but they're not going about it the right way. I don't think they're making the right decision. And at the end of the day, Joel's not making the right decision, but he did save the world. He saved his world. And
exactly.
and I think it was the right decision. I think you're right. I think he did a good guy thing.
I would do it. I would do it for my own daughter, right? I would do it.
Would you do it for me?
Like people that I have these I do it for you.
Oh, wow.
I'd lie to you.
Okay.
I'd lie to you.
It.
Make sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Save me instead of the world. I appreciate it.
Right. And I think, again, Joel knows at the end of the day that if she knew the truth, she'd still go through with it. She would sacrifice herself for the betterment, but at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're saying, like, do people want it? But, in the final moments here where she is, she first calls out the fact that she killed Riley. In the game, I wanted to
get to that because we talked about this.
She killed. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So here is that. Again, why didn't they show us that moment? I would have loved to have seen it. Maybe even just here. It takes us there. Do you know what I mean? Or it takes us there at some point, just to see that moment when she has to do it, and then when she confronts her and says it. That would have been great. I just would have loved that. And the fact that she mentioned Tess and the fact that she mentioned Sam. Again, it connects back to that the scene with the giraffe, where she is saying in her head, I got to go through this because people died to get me here, right? And I'm doing it for them. And I don't know what that means for me, but I got to do it for them. Yeah. And I honestly believe that that's what that moment says. Like Bella Ramsey did such a great job with that acting in that moment. You can just read between the lines. Yeah. And, her motivation to be a part of the cure is something that is sort of in her mind that's going to take away from her overall experience of life. Like he's reluctant to believe in the possibility of a cure. And I think in the end, Ellie doesn't actually believe him when she says, "Oh no, okay."
That okay, that's the kind of okay that you give to someone when you're like, "I love you. I know you're lying, but I'm going to just say okay right now. Just cuz we're going to keep going on right now." I think on a lighter note, hearing Joel fill that void, even though he's kind of just filling the void of silence, him just talking about how, Sarah was more girly. And I love that little tiny moment where Ellie's like, she's like, "No, I'm not girly." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, thank goodness you said it." Like, I'm off the hook here.
Yeah. But even, again, another instance of a sense of guilt, I think, and maybe him opening up more.
Yeah.
Like, he's talking about Sarah so freely.
Yeah.
Like, considering where we've seen him, right? Like, there are these telling moments of Joel becoming more comfortable. And I think maybe he is a bad guy because he's sheltering Ellie, keeping her for himself to keep him alive, to keep him going, to keep him striving, because now he sees a reason, to look for the light. She's his cure. She's his cure. She's his cure. Yeah. I know.
All right, let's get to our overall thoughts and final score for this episode, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 moments of love, and then we're going to also rate our thoughts on the first season of the show, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 moments of fear, the other theme that is so prevalent that we have not shut up about every single week. Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, this episode was great, and it had a lot to do with the performances we got. The story itself felt very cut from the game, and rightfully so, because the last act of this game is stellar storytelling. And there's this nuance of little things and new things sprinkled throughout, like seeing the birth of Ellie and meeting Anna Williams and understanding her relationship with Marlene and seeing the parallels between that relationship and Ellie's relationship with Riley and seeing that sort of juxtaposition. And also just the science of why Ellie is immune to this virus. Pedro and Bella Ramsey, like, they are flawless in this episode. They deliver such outstanding performances. And again, as everything we were talking about, it's not just the word delivery. It is the emotion behind the eyes. It is the facial reaction. It's the way things are said or the way emotion is conveyed. The acting in this show is so freaking good, man. It is so good, and this episode is just like a great way for us to see as an audience, like, they have become Joel and Ellie.
Oh yeah,
they are wholeheartedly these characters, whereas before they were playing the personas, grumpy Joel and spunky in your face Ellie. Here it's like they're so comfortable with their characters. So great acting. But like the rest of the season, this episode adapts portions of the game that are integral and necessary for the story. And I think, wrapping this season just like the game, with Joel doubling down on the lie that pretty much, is going to set up for a season 2 that'll be rooted in emotional baggage. I'm just telling you. And it does leave you with the thought, like you asked earlier, like, is he doing the right thing or is he doing the bad thing? I'm kind of like, I know what he's doing, but it's not right, but he's a good person for doing it. It doesn't make him a bad person for doing it. He's protecting Ellie. So it's like, do that with what you may. But I think overall this episode played exactly as I had expected it. And I was surprised by some of the narrative elements that were added throughout. So I'm giving it a 4.5 out of 5 moments of love.
Okay. Why don't I jump in? I'll jump in. I'll give my thoughts on the episode, and then we'll collectively talk about the season. So yeah, this episode, I think like the past few episodes, was again almost a direct translation of the game. Some intriguing changes. The way they added the aspect of Joel's suicide just adds that slight little bit of extra character growth for him. And I think it helps round out his story for this chapter, bringing him full circle before we get sort of right back into seeing his desperation mode, right? His blank face mode with the attack on the Fireflies. And the performances, dude, come on, they're stellar.
They're the thing that keeps this episode up.
It's unreal. Ashley Johnson is Anna.
Oh, so good.
Such a powerful addition. And to actually get to see Ellie's birth and the circumstances in how Anna died, again, it just gives more depth to a character I didn't think we could go deeper with in terms of Ellie. Pretty much everything worked for me this week. The music, the moments of action, as dark as they were, the moments of levity and seeing Joel and Ellie sharing more moments of true freedom was very welcomed, especially with how heavy this episode got and how heavy this series can get. So this was a great finale for this chapter of the story. I'm actually going to give this a solid 4.5 out of 5 moments of love.
All right. I thought you were going 5 out of 5. I love that we're both on the same scale. Let's see how we feel about the season though, because it'll be interesting. So I honestly believe that this series has some of the best parts of adaptation, but also the worst parts. Tonally, this series matches the games with a mix of the original source material and with some new elements. However, I really wish they added more new rather than just going to the play-by-play of the game. Episodes 1 and 3 are probably some of the best episodes of in my mind from this entire season, because it took the source material and it gave us something new and something that surprised us as fans of the game, and also something that would still include a whole new audience. Most of the rest of the series, though, is more or less the same as the game. And they do make some small changes here and there, but just not enough that I thought was drastically different. Like in the episodes with Henry, Sam, and Kathleen, sure, you can switch up the city that something takes place in, but you're still feeding me expository information as if I'm in a game about people's actions and about their relationships and about how close they were. I'm hearing these moments when I'm watching a TV series, and I should be seeing these moments unfold. Whereas episodes 1 and 3, they really pushed the boundaries, they went the distance, and they made things different.
Sure.
Also, the first 2 episodes featured some haunting cold opens that told a story about the virus outside of the main story. And I was like, first 2 episodes, like, this is going to be great. Like, even if they give us these moments at the beginning that may not have anything to do with the actual episode, but just give us more of the story about the virus over the last 20 years outside of the main story as sort of context, as a background history as to what went down, I think would have been totally great. I think we could have even seen some more clickers at the same time.
I think you want like a side series, Justin. Like the world of The Last of Us, almost.
Not necessarily, because I understand that the reason why there's not as many clickers is it's more situational. It's not gameplay. It's not something that we need to kill. We're watching a TV show, right? So at the end of the day, it's just an added layer to serve the larger story. In terms of like the world building elements, they could have added a little bit more. They had a really great trajectory with the first 2 episodes, those great cold opens that told the story outside of the main story about the virus, as it gives more context to this world, as it gives more context to everything else, while not steering so far away from the original story of the game, which they executed beautifully. I do think that this show kept its theme of love and fear consistent throughout the entire series. And, you know, we've talked about this, but, you know, love and fear are fundamental to the evolutionary process. You know, they share common roots in reproduction, survival, and they're perceived with safety and well-being, which are all themes and things that we've seen play throughout this series. You know, the bleak reality that people are the worst and more worse than the infected. It's a sad reality that again, another haunting truth of what would be in a post-apocalyptic time. That stays as a consistent theme throughout this series. The story perfectly matches the game and what it's meant to do, and the story of the characters of Joel and Ellie. And I think that has a lot to do with performances. As we've said, Bella Ramsey, Pedro Pascal, the entire cast. I'm not going to list them all. They are friggin' fantastic, and it's just such beautiful acting, and in many cases that's what's kept this series even more consistent beyond everything else is the performances. Mazin and Druckmann have really struck gold by bringing this series to life, and I'm very excited for a part 2, but I hope that they find more opportunities to just sprinkle in some things that make it different from the game. But that said, again, the performances are the emotional connection for me, very much like it is in the game. You know, we have Troy Baker's Joel, we have Ashley Johnson's Ellie, but now to add to that, we have Pedro Pascal's Joel and Bella Ramsey's Ellie that just add a whole new dynamic and a whole new layer to this story as it's reimagined and as a TV series. The show did what it needed to do. It sparked conversations week to week. It attracted new fans while appealing to mass fans of the game. So it was a success. I'm going to be giving this entire series a 4 out of 5 moments of fear.
Cool. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I think what a damn good show. What a damn good show. I've said in my review for The Last of Us Part 2 that as a video game, it pushes the medium forward in terms of storytelling. And this does the same thing for video game adaptations, right? This is the new bar for how to deliver these incredible stories that so many people are missing out on because they either don't like games, they didn't grow up with them, they don't have time, they physically cannot play a video game. And here they have the opportunity to explore these incredible stories. And the thing is, it's like, you know, I've talked to tons of people who don't play video games, didn't grow up with video games, even like my own parents who are just like my mom the other day randomly was just like, I think I was talking about The Last of Us and how, you know, they are adapting. I was telling my dad to watch the first 3 episodes, and she's like, oh, you know what's weird? She's like, I only ever recently, like in the past year, discovered that video games have stories. I was just like, oh no. Like, obviously we haven't done our due diligence to tell people that, yes, there are great, phenomenal worlds that are built beyond just controlling, you know, and pressing some buttons. So I do think that, you know, there's not much more I can say about the cast of this show. Bella Ramsey, Pedro Pascal, perfectly cast. The entire ensemble cast, the additions of bringing in Troy and Ashley, fantastic. I think the music continues to be excellent, beautiful, and haunting, and the way that it's used in this show is so good. And the way the show is shot, like it's captured the sort of, we were talking about the idea earlier of like the natural world coming back to life, and it captures that at times. It's breathtaking the way that they shoot this show, and just, again, love seeing that it was shot in Alberta. And I think they took what they needed to take. They added more to help bring forward an even greater sense of messaging in the themes of parenthood and, as you said, love and fear. And I think it's a beautiful and sad look at the darkest and brightest parts of humanity. And I'm so happy that so many more people have gotten to enjoy it week to week. So HBO's The Last of Us is getting the same score that I would give the game. It's the same score that I give the DLC for the game. It's the same score that I gave the sequel for the game, and that is a solid 5 out of 5 moments of fear. And that is it for this week's Watch Club for HBO's The Last of Us. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, well, listen, you don't have to storm a hospital to save the one person, in your life who makes life worth living. Instead, Justin, can you let our lovely listeners know how they can reach us outside of their QZ?
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies, TV shows, and games, including our spoiler-free review for the Apple TV Plus original series Hello Tomorrow, as well as Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Plus, we also have some interviews with the cast and crew of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Justin sat down with Catherine Newton, who plays Cassie in the film, and I had a lovely chat with Peyton Reed, the director of the Ant-Man trilogy. So, go check out those interviews. You can check them out here on podcast service of your choice, or on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. And we're also on TikTok at We Are Geekcentric. Justin, earlier when you were doing the clamoring of the infected, I was like, that could be your TikTok dance. Maybe that's what, make that a thing. Make that go viral.
I could do that.
Oh,
like an infection?
Pun intended,
wow.
My dude. Listen, if you're enjoying this Watch Club, or if you enjoyed this Watch Club, and you want to travel to a galaxy far, far away, we currently have 2 other Watch Clubs still going, for Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2, and another for Season 3 of The Mandalorian. So again, subscribe here, subscribe on YouTube, check out the TikTok, subscribe to us on our social medias. We got a bunch of great stuff coming at you this year. Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this Watch Club. And as we say for the final time this season, you know what? Actually, hold on. Now that I've sort of concluded that the Fireflies might not have all been, sort of good people, I'm actually gonna change it up a little bit, if that's okay, in the last episode. And instead, I think we should go with maybe Joel and Ellie's last words in this season. So, as we say, I swear.
Okay.